Right now, two rockets capable of carrying human souls to the moon are being forged just 1,600 miles apart. One has exploded 7 times in brilliant fireballs that lit up the Texas sky. And SpaceX threw a party after each one. The other sat on a launch pad for 913 days of preparation before its first flight, consuming more money than the entire GDP of Iceland. Here's the cosmic joke. NASA is writing checks to both of them. Together, they represent a $93 billion wager on humanity's future. A grand experiment to answer one question that will echo through the centuries. Is our path to the stars paved with careful perfection or beautiful chaos? Picture this moment in aerospace history. Boeing, the titan that helped rivet together the Saturn V. The only machine that ever carried humans beyond Earth's cradle. Watching a startup that was building model rockets in a warehouse when the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated. The earthquake hit on April 16, 2021. NASA looked at proposals from the Aerospace establishment, Boeing's national team, backed by Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper. Then handed $2.89 billion to SpaceX for the human landing system. The decision sent shockwaves through mahogany boardrooms across the aerospace industry. Jeff Bezos fired back with a 175-page protest that essentially screamed, "You're trusting humanity's return to the moon to a company that celebrates explosions?" Let's translate these numbers into something your mind can grasp. Each time SLS lights its engines, it burns $4.1 billion, enough to buy 20,000 Tesla Model 3s, or fund NASA's entire planetary science division for 4 years. SpaceX claims Starship will eventually cost $10 million per launch. Even if that's pure Musk optimism, and the real cost is $200 million. You could launch 20 Starships for the price of one SLS. 20 chances versus one perfect shot. The timeline tells its own tragedy. SLS was born in September 2011, promising to fly by 2016. It finally escaped Earth's gravity in November 2022, 6 years late, and $10 billion over budget. During those same 11 years, SpaceX went from sketches labeled BFR to watching 15 Starship prototypes attempt flight. Some soared, some exploded. All taught lessons worth billions. The irony cuts deep. Boeing helped build the rocket that proved humanity could touch another world. Now they're racing against a company that didn't exist when Boeing was shuttling astronauts to the International Space Station. It's as if the Wright brothers suddenly had to compete against a teenager with a jet engine and a dream. Two philosophies of engineering are fighting for humanity's future. And you can see them written in fire and ice across the American aerospace landscape. When Starship SN8 performed its death dive on December 9, 2020, attempting an unprecedented belly flop maneuver that no rocket had ever tried, it slammed into the Texas dirt at 30 miles per hour. The explosion could be seen for miles. Elon Musk's response? "Mars, here we come." The crash wasn't failure, it was data. SN9 exploded 2 months later. SN10 landed successfully, then detonated 8 minutes later. SN11 became confetti mid-air. Each fireball taught SpaceX something that would have cost millions in traditional wind tunnel testing and computer simulations. Contrast this with the Cathedral of Caution at Stennis Space Center. When Boeing fired up SLS's 4 RS-25 engines for the critical green run test in January 2021, the engines shut down after just 67 seconds, barely a heartbeat in the 8 minutes they were supposed to run. That single stumble triggered an 11-month delay. A hydrogen leak, invisible to the eye, deadly to a mission. During the September 2022 launch attempt meant another month of waiting. Each day, SLS sits on the pad bleeds approximately $1 million from taxpayer coffers. Here's the material truth that changes everything. SpaceX builds rockets out of 304L stainless steel, the same alloy in your kitchen sink. It costs $3 per kilogram and can be welded in a tent in the Texas desert. Boeing crafts SLS from aluminum lithium alloy at $200 per kilogram, requiring clean rooms where a single speck of dust could doom a mission. SpaceX can birth a Starship prototype in weeks. An SLS core stage gestates for years in climate-controlled perfection. The price of caution is written in billions. By the time SLS finally kissed the edge of space, NASA had invested $23 billion in development alone. Adjust the entire Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs for inflation, all of them, including the 12 men who walked on the moon, and you get $25.8 billion. We spent almost as much to fly one empty rocket around the moon as we did to win the entire space race. Here's where the story becomes a masterclass in political physics. Your money is literally fighting itself in space. Boeing operates in the comfortable embrace of cost-plus contracts. When SLS hemorrhages money, Boeing doesn't bleed, they bill. Their fee structure actually rewards overruns up to a certain percentage. It's like hiring a contractor who gets a bonus when your kitchen renovation goes over budget. SpaceX signed a fixed-price contract. Every dollar over $2.89 billion is extracted from Elon Musk's ambitions, not your paycheck. The geography of graft is breathtaking. Congress mandated that SLS use Space Shuttle-era contractors spread across Alabama, Louisiana, Utah, Florida. A constellation of jobs in 45 states. Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama, wielding the Appropriations Committee like a budgetary sword, carved into law that NASA must spend at least $2 billion annually on SLS through 2028. It doesn't matter if Starship starts ferrying tourists to Mars. The money flows to SLS by congressional decree. Critics have renamed it the Senate Launch System. Watch how vertical integration battles political integration. SpaceX forges 85% of Starship in-house at Boca Chica, where welders and engineers work side by side. Boeing orchestrates a symphony of 1,000 subcontractors across 45 states. This isn't inefficiency. It's political armor. Try to kill SLS, and you're not attacking a rocket. You're attacking jobs in nearly every state in the Union. The congressional testimony that should haunt your dreams. NASA Inspector General Paul Martin stood before Congress in November 2021 and stated, NASA has spent approximately $40 billion on SLS, Orion, and ground systems. The entire Apollo program, every Saturn V, every lunar module, every mission from Mercury to Apollo 17 cost $25.8 billion in today's dollars. We're spending 60% more to return to the moon than we spent to get there the first time. The beautiful absurdity. NASA is legally required to fund its own competition. They must pour $2 billion annually into SLS while simultaneously paying SpaceX to make it obsolete. It's as if the government hired both Edison and Tesla, gave them both unlimited funding, and said, figure out electricity, and try not to electrocute each other. Here's the plot twist that would make Shakespeare weep. These sworn enemies need each other to touch the moon. The Artemis 3 mission architecture reads like a peace treaty written in rocket fuel. 4 astronauts will ride SLS/Orion to lunar orbit. Because it earned human rating through a traditional NASA gauntlet that cost billions and took years. But Orion can't land on the moon. It's essentially a taxi to nowhere. So these brave souls will float across the void and board a waiting Starship HLS, their actual ticket to the lunar surface. Why this Frankenstein's monster of a mission? Because Starship can deliver 100 metric tons to the lunar surface, while Orion can barely land itself without running out of fuel. The dependency runs deeper than metal and math. Starship's lunar ambitions require an orbital refueling ballet never attempted at this scale. Between 8 and 16 tanker flights, each one a potential point of failure. Imagine trying to refuel your car while both you and the gas station are falling around Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. SLS avoids this complexity with brute force. One launch, straight shot, but can only support a crew for 21 days before life support runs out. The 2024 revelation that nobody saw coming. Boeing, in procurement documents that barely made headlines, began exploring using Starship, their competitor's rocket, to launch deep space habitat modules. It's like Ford asking Tesla to deliver their engines. The admission was buried in technical jargon, but the message was clear. Even Boeing can't ignore Starship's economics. Jim Free, NASA's associate administrator, crystallized this strange symbiosis in February 2024. We're not picking winners and losers. We're building an ecosystem where government reliability and commercial innovation reinforce each other. Translation: we need Boeing's methodical perfectionism to keep astronauts alive, and SpaceX's magnificent chaos to make space affordable. The cosmic irony is perfect. Boeing builds the limousine that takes you to the spaceport. SpaceX builds the rocket that takes you to the future. And somehow, impossibly, they need each other to get humanity to the moon. What started as a traditional government contract has metamorphosed into humanity's greatest experiment in competitive evolution. Not biological, but technological. The race between SpaceX and Boeing has transformed from a sprint into a three-legged race where both runners are tied together, stumbling toward the stars. The numbers tell a story of inspired redundancy. NASA's $93 billion dual-track approach might be accidental genius. If Starship's orbital refueling proves impossible, if those 16 tanker flights become an orbital traffic jam, Artemis continues with SLS alone, limited but breathing. If SLS faces another hydrogen leak that triggers a 2-year stand-down, Starship could theoretically carry crew by 2026. This isn't waste masquerading as progress. It's insurance for the species. History is rhyming in rocket fuel. In 1961, America simultaneously pursued 3 different paths to the moon: direct ascent, a massive rocket straight to the lunar surface; Earth orbit rendezvous, assembly in Earth orbit; and lunar orbit rendezvous, the eventual winner. The riskiest option, having the lunar lander meet the command module in orbit around the moon, seemed insane until it became the only way. Today's dual approach might birth similar revelations. Consider the cosmic perspective. In the time you've watched this video, Earth has carried you 1,100 miles through space. The moon has drifted 126 feet farther away from Earth. It's been slowly escaping since the day it formed. We're in a race not just with ourselves, but with celestial mechanics. Every year we delay, our nearest neighbor drifts a little farther into the dark. In the end, the moon doesn't care if you arrived on a rocket that never failed, or one that failed magnificently before succeeding. The regolith will accept your bootprint either way. But history, that cruel judge of human ambition, we'll remember this moment when we decided to hedge our cosmic bet, funding both the careful craftsmen who measure twice and cut once, and the magnificent mavericks who cut 100 times until they get it right. Because maybe, just maybe, the key to becoming a spacefaring civilization isn't choosing between revolution and evolution. It's realizing that the void is too vast, too hostile, and too full of wonders for any single philosophy to conquer. We need both the patience of Boeing and the fury of SpaceX. We need both the cathedral builders and the cowboys. Which philosophy will carry humanity to Mars and beyond? Boeing's failure is not an option, or SpaceX's failure is the best teacher? And here's the real question burning through your screen. Should NASA keep funding both visions, or choose a side in this $93 billion gamble? Let me know in the comments which rocket you'd trust with your life. And more importantly, which one you'd trust with your children's future among the stars. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe for more stories where history, technology, and human ambition collide. Thanks for watching.